The success mantra for startups, there isn't any success mantra, but if there's one thing that's common among successful startups, is the founder has to completely understand the needs of the market. Everything else changes. The market that you're going after, that's your biggest strength. If you can make your market happy, you can screw everybody else in the sense that you don't have to give as much value. Your investor might say, do this, or some opinionated person might say, do that and try this. But it all matters is what your market wants. And if you can focus on that, you'll prove everybody wrong and the market right, because that's what the only thing that matters. Everybody else will understand, okay, you are the perfect CEO because you have one thing clear. You know how to translate your market research to product and services, right? So that's the success mantra. Listen to your customers, engage with the market, and really become the market. Feel the pains they feel the joys they feel, and that way you'll be able to feel and think and make decisions based on how the market will react to your product or service. The most fundamental need of every living being is to love and be loved. This is who we are at the core, at the soul. Love and be loved. That's why you see the Bollywood movies, the Hollywood movies, they're all talking about love, because that is what nourishes our soul. We're looking for happiness through loving relationships, and it's not just boy-girl relationship, it's also parent-child, it's business relationship, it's government. I'll tell you a nice story. I walked into a MSME department, and you know how these Caru's guys sit there and they're doing a favor to the world by being in their office. So I came in and I said, so what are you doing for startups? What kind of opportunities do you have? He looks at me like, who's this guy? So I introduced myself. He said, okay, sit down. We have this, this, and this, and we do some talks. Some bank managers come and give talks on startups. I'm like, but bank managers don't have startup experience. He said, yes, that's true. I said, then why are they speaking on startups? Why can't I be speaking on startups? I have built so many startups. He's like, no, you're not a government guy. We only allow government officials to come and speak on startups. I said, but how does that help? You have to have real entrepreneurs who have gone through it to teach. And then he kept saying no, and I kept on talking. And I talked about success stories of the startup we have in Kolkata Ventures, how lives are transforming, how kids are quitting college or not, and becoming successful entrepreneurs, making lakhs a month. Then he said, people need to hear this, This is really amazing. Can you come for the next talk? So basically, I didn't stop at the no. That's very important. When you are nice to people, you touch their heart, something else happens. Even though there are rules, the rules can be bent. You're not breaking any rules. You can bend the rules to make things happen. And that is why some people get their way through and some people don't. Whether it's office politics, whether it's corporate life, whether it's business. A lot of times people are pitching their ideas and it seems very confusing. The story, from ideation to financial projection, the slides, it's like I'm doing this, and by the way I'm doing this also, and that also, and for the timing we are doing this. What happens is you lose your audience, you lose the investor while you're pitching to them. So it's very important to have a clean and clear story. This is very simple. You want their money, right? You want the investors' money, you show them how their X is going to become 100X or 1000X in Y period of time. That's it. That's the story you're pitching. There's nothing else. And the easier you make it for the lazy brain, the better off you are. The more complicated you make it, the more questions and doubts, and people are going to be lost. So give them less, clear story, tease them, so they ask you questions and you can wow them with your answers. You got to just go out and find opportunities to network with people. CII is right here. They do the biggest networking organization in the entire country, right? So I'm sure there are events coming up for startups and first generation entrepreneurs that we are taking together. So just get out and talk to people and get yourself out there, and you will, just like dating, right? People go to bars and pubs to meet people and discourse and all that. Why? To make new friends. After college, it becomes hard to get dates. Why? Because you just not meeting so many people, you're bogged down with work. So same thing with entrepreneurship. You have to just go out, meet people wherever you are. Just tell people, hey, I exist. I am doing the coolest thing on the face of the planet, like Steve Jobs. Right? Amazing. Everything about him is amazing, right? And people will be like, wow, I want to be part of you. How can I join? Right? That's it. So growth hacking means, generally people think about growth as linear. Hacking means you find a shortcut, you find a little slightly evil but not illegal way to increase your speed in a logarithmic way, right? Instead of linear, your logarithmic growth. So that's growth hacking. Now, growth hack comes only when you have the eyes and ears to see through things that others are not seeing, to have resources that others don't have access to. And the best way to do it is think growth hacking before you build a product or service. Build the marketing aspect into and design into the genetics of your product and service. For example, Dropbox. Dropbox is built in such a way that it grows through referrals, right? You refer, you get 500 MB or some kind of space, right? Half a gigabyte of space. That's how in 2 years they become a $10 billion company.
There are a few days when you feel like not doing anything, feeling lazy, that, you know what, today I just want to watch Netflix, I just want to eat and sleep. And you should do it. It's very important you harness the power of laziness, because what it does to you is it gives your body the much needed rest, and it gives your brain the much needed space that it needs to process all the things that you are trying to absorb, process all the decisions you're trying to make. All of that, when you give it space, it allows it to function in a much more optimal way. So give yourself a Wednesday off or a Thursday off, just randomly. If you want to write something or just want to sleep, do it. The power of laziness is very, very amazing. I was just with a French billionaire. He's super rich and super nice. And I asked him, is it true that in France you guys work only 4 days? He's like, officially, people are required to work only 35 hours a week. I said, wow, 35 hours. And are you guys productive? And it's like, we are more productive than most nations. Especially we are more productive than America, where people work 90 hours a week. And I was trying to understand why. So I asked him, and he said, it's already scientifically proven that when you give yourself enough rest, the time when you're working, you're far more productive versus you're not sleeping enough, you're not eating right, you're letting things bombard your mind, you're overwhelmed with stress, and then you try to perform within all those situations. It really cripples you. It cripples you to even perform at your half optimal level. But when you are rested, your stress plus rest makes you super productive. So rest is very much required. Lazy days are fantastic. So do harness the power of laziness. It's okay to not do anything, and that will boost you to get up and get the energy to do something much more productive and much better than what you would do otherwise with no sleep and terrible mindset.
A high-performing life requires planning. You need to plan your day. You need to give time for learning. A book, blogs, mentorship, learning. Give time for meditation, where your mind is being trained to focus on the present. Whoever you're talking to, whatever you're doing, you will be able to give your 100%. That's the power of meditation. Then give time, obviously, for your work, things that you need to get done. Give time for family. Give time for food, having your dinner, not multitasking. Multitasking has been proven to be counterproductive. It's not good for you. When you are looking at the TV as well as working on your project and looking at the WhatsApp, you're distracted. What would take you an hour takes you 3 hours. And what you end up giving, the quality of the output, is not as good as it would be if you just focused on one thing and one thing alone. So have time for learning, for meditation, for your work, for your family, for your religion, for spirituality, all of that. But do one thing at a time. Whatever you're doing, do that only and nothing else at that point. That way, whatever you do, you're in the present, you're giving your best. And when you give your best and you train your mind to give your best in every aspect of your life, you become a high-performing individual. That's just how it works. Every day we get 30 seconds of courage. 30 seconds we feel like, wow, you know what? Let's make it happen. Let's do the best thing possible. And then the brain comes in and gives us all the reasons why we would fail. Why would we get rejected? Why this is not a great idea? Maybe this is not the right time. Maybe a little later. All of these are basically the brain's way of trying to keep you safe. Because the brain thinks, oh, what if you go in that direction and it hurts you in somewhere? That's the evolutionary brain we're talking about. But then, in these 30 seconds, if you actually start taking action before all these ideas and all these so-called rationalizations and logic that kicks in, you will be able to make those hard decisions that transform your life.
Every day, 30 seconds, that's all you need. 30 seconds of bravery to make those hard choices, the choices that you might regret in the near future, that, oh my God, I probably should have done that. But in your deathbed, you will appreciate that because I took that risk, today I am where I am. Because I took that risk, today I can take care of my family in a beautiful way. Because I took that risk, I am able to have a much more comfortable life than my grandparents and great-great-grandparents, right? That's going to happen only when you take that risk, take that decision that you're generally scared to take. And there are 20 million reasons why you should not take. But if you do, and if your life goes in a certain direction, everything changes. Of the mind is accept, reject, right? And Krishna calls the mind the sixth sense. So we have 5 senses. Mind is the sixth sense because all the senses go to the mind and they get processed. I want to touch, I want to feel, I want to eat, I want to taste, I want to hear, right? All of that is being processed in the mind. And so, I'll give you an example to understand this further. You're standing at a 30-story building, looking down. The mind says, wouldn't it be nice to jump? And the intelligence says, remember when you fell from bed? It hurt.
So basically these are thoughts, right? The conversation happening.
The mind is the one who's the desire is coming from the mind. The intelligence is the discerning factor, right? Which is telling the mind, don't do it, because it's backed by knowledge. That if you do it, it hurt when you fell from bed, you might die if you jump from here. The desire is the mind. Decision-making agency is the intelligence. So mind and intelligence are two different entities. And the intelligence either has experience or knowledge. A lot of times there are things in life we don't know what to do, right? Somebody comes to you and says, try this, snort this. It will give you such sensation. Now, you don't have the knowledge what might happen. Or you might know that heroin might make you a really, a terrible person. It will ruin your life. And you say, no, thank you. But if you don't know what that is, you're like, let me snort it. Not so bad. Oh, I got a high. Okay, this is good, right? So that knowledge is coming from here. That can strengthen the intelligence, which can control the mind, which can control the senses. Sure. So like I said, think big, start small, grow slow. So initially, you can think of a global business, but it might be like, how? I'm in a garage and I have no money and I'm just starting out, no validation. So it takes a different mindset for an entrepreneur to start in that journey of thinking really, really big. And if you look at any established entrepreneur, if you ask them this question, they will tell you that before they had their success, way before they started, they actually saw the success happening. For example, Hollywood actor Jim Carrey, he wrote himself a $10 million check for 2008 Thanksgiving in '96 or something like that, when nobody knew him. But he was poised to become the most highly paid actor in Hollywood. And it took him around 10 years to get to that point. But it was amazing that for the movie Bruce Almighty, he actually got the $10 million check. And that was right exactly when he had predicted it. So it's not a coincidence, it's not luck. It's that he could see that happening, and his brain, his mind, his intelligence was focused on finding whatever resources that are out there to make that reality happen. Of course, there's karma, right? But still, if we have the poise and we can see that, so that can happen. But start small, start on a local basis, right? Build it out, like I said, grow slow, then grow fast. But know what is happening on the global level. Know who your competition is out there. So start local, but think global. And see what advantage you have of being in your country. That maybe your competitor is in the US or in the UK, and you might have cheap labor, you might have better laws, you might have less regulations. That's your advantage. So you keep your eye on your competitor, this is how they're growing, but I'm going to beat them because I have these advantages. And you keep pressing on a day-to-day basis. Be patient. Be patient on the long-term success, but be speedy and fast on making things happen. Because your team, they need to see momentum. They need to see progress happening. Otherwise, they'll leave you.